Okay then, Joe Carass.
Hello.
Welcome to our podcast, along with Richard.
Yep.
And we want to have a chat with you today. We're going to have a chat today, Joe, about, well, it's going to go all over the place because our podcasts normally do, but
Tangents.
working in the angling industry, we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yeah.
The first time I met Joe, folks, I'm going to say, was down at Whiteacres, probably 2004, I'm going to say. That's the first time I went there. And you were there, little squeaky Joe.
Do you know what's really funny about that day?
Do you know, I'm sorry for interrupting, but before I want to go into that as well, it's like, we can talk about that as well. So yeah, no, go off on it later. Go on.
Do you know what's funny about the first time I ever met you?
Go ahead.
I was at Whiteacres and you'd drawn the bridge peg at Gwynneth for them who noticed.
I remember.
And you drew it on the Thursday and I drew it on the Friday.
Yeah.
And I just drove to it thinking, well, it's Andy May, the fish casters shallow, and I think you fish pellets.
Yeah.
But I went with casters and won the match. It was amazing. I'm like, well, that shows how I thought of you at the time. I thought, well, you just filled it in with casters.
Yeah.
And I did it and it worked.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed in the slightest. And you like used to catch them like right short then, didn't you? Like on a top kit and one down.
Yeah,
the
I just fished shallow to the bridge. Red hydro shallow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was exactly the same, purple eye, Joe. I don't think I took casters though. It was definitely pellets.
It was pellets because I talked to you about it after,
You had,
and I was
you
like,
had a right weight though, didn't you? I only had like £80.
180 £180, but that was a big weight then.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? When you think, yeah, Andy May, they definitely fish casters, but it was brilliant.
Oh, but that leads me on to like, how many other anglers there were from like your region. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, you, Adam Richards, Denty,
Geldart,
Josh Newton, Geldart, flipping
Ash Clements,
Ash Clements. There was loads of you, weren't you?
Fiskate.
Paul Burton, you're not a budge. And
Dean Smith.
Just kept going on and on and on.
Yeah,
Wasn't there?
yeah.
So many
Great
like
anglers.
of that era. And you always used to do well in the festivals, didn't you, Don?
Yeah, it was just a good little group that we had going. And when you think, I don't think any of them go now. Budgie and Geldart still go, I think. But other than that,
This is Whiteacres, yeah?
yeah, none of them go.
I remember like Dean Smith just rocked up, won the festival, and like you didn't see
He's
him
so
again.
good, Dean.
He's awesome.
So good. Such a good angler.
Can I mention Camasan, match of the year?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Can't mention that. Joe.
Yeah,
What were
he
we
won it,
going?
didn't he? Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
banned,
mate.
banned
He won that
subject?
and he won the British Open as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
When
Meet
he
Shallow, Morelands.
So I'm going to mention this story because I was next to Will, who come third, and then Will was next but one to where Dean won it.
That was when Dean was really in
Morelands.
his height of his powers. Like he had
ridiculous.
that meat shallow, he was banding his meat like
Jack, don't meet, Cop.
He was so good.
Just amazing. I told you to go off on one, folks. But
Straight
right,
away, it's taken us a minute to go off.
so like in the meet, when did you first start and how did you get into it and all that then, Joe? Back
What, in
in the
fishing
day.
or media?
Media.
No, like media.
Right, so growing up in school, this sounds really sad really, but for my GCSEs I wrote a fishing article
Did you?
for my English exam, yeah. Because I was obsessed with magazines.
And then
I
one
used
particular
to
or-
save my dinner money and buy the magazines. And
Right, okay.
that's
You love
honest
fishing
truth
then?
on my kids'
Yeah.
lives. And I absolutely loved it. So I always loved fishing magazines and content around it. And Tom Scully used to have a website called Angling. What was it called
Angling
now?
Star.
Fishing for Fun. It was called.
Isn't that
He did the Angling Star
Right,
first,
okay.
and then him and another chap did a Fishing for Fun. It was called.
Right.
And he asked me to do a blog because me and Tom were mates at the time, and this was like before blogging was even a thing in fishing.
Like way before Facebook and all of that.
Way before Rich, like so far, long and long ago. And there was me, Stuart Lister, Tom, and Matt Godfrey. And Matt was like 12 at the time. 13.
Yeah, proper young.
And I was doing really well at the Oaks at the time and various venues that I was going. And it was really popular. But it got me into that of promoting myself, writing features, and all that sort of stuff. And then Tom went off to DHP to work, and he was there a little while. And then when Mark Williams, who used to be like an editorial assistant there, he left. Tom and John and Dave Howell at the time rang me up straight away, and I went for an interview. And because I was already writing weekly anyway, it was like a bit like it is now. There ain't many people doing it.
And obviously, where you were based and where obviously the
Knaresborough,
magazine is, like miles
I was
away,
in
wasn't it?
Knaresborough, and I'm like 20-year-old.
Yeah, man.
Never
Big
left
step,
me
that, Joe.
never left my nan's bedroom, like spare room. Living in a little cupboard room at home, and and then just one day I worked with my dad at the time. And
What were you doing?
I was an electrician.
Right.
My dad's a joiner, so we used to do like loft conversions and stuff
Oh,
like
right,
that.
okay.
And I remember going home, and my dad's like my ultimate best mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking telling him like I'm gonna leave home. I'm flying the nest. I'm going down to Daventry, and unbelievable. But 13 years later, I'm here.
That's it, mate.
Yeah,
That's it.
big step.
Oh, mate, unbelievable. Yeah, fair play.
And I guess kids
that
leave
age.
home to go to uni and stuff like that, don't they? But
You went
this was
for
like
fishing,
permanent.
Pursuing your dream. You were fishing,
Yeah.
you were in that. So what, you went to, was it Match Fishing?
Match
you
Fishing
went
magazine, yeah.
first,
It was me and Dave Howell.
Right, okay.
Dave wasn't there long, which is a shame because I really enjoyed
Yeah.
spending time with Dave. We had some like good times on the river and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Alex Bones came back.
Yeah.
And that was it really. When I look back, I was very green and naive to stuff. And it's just gone from there really. Obviously I had to totally learn how to use a camera from scratch. Didn't have a clue. Pat McInnes, shout out to Pat.
Yeah.
Showed me the ropes, but he was way too technical for me. Like way too technical. I couldn't understand anything he was telling me about.
Go on, Pat.
So I kind of had to learn my own way.
Yeah.
John Arthur was actually better for me than Pat was because John was very much like me, self-taught. And he didn't know the technical reasons why stuff did what it did, but he knew how to do it.
Press the big button and it takes a picture.
Obviously, because you're writing anyway, you were pretty PC savvy. You weren't like looking around for the A button like I used to do.
No, I could write, but I couldn't use a Mac. I'd never used a Mac before, and everything was on a Mac.
Mac and cheese.
Which, for anyone who's gone from a Windows PC to a Mac, is a massive jump. It's probably not so much now because everyone grows up using Apple, but at the time it wasn't the same. And
I suppose having that grounding of doing the blogs and stuff before, that's a good starting point for just finding a story within stuff, just getting used to, you go for days fishing, find something to draw from it rather than...
I think as well, I'm like, even now, I'm genuinely interested what the person's doing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can make that up. Like it shows, doesn't it, if you're not interested in something. And I think you can talk about anything as long as you're interested in it. And I've never made a note once in a feature or a video or whatever. Like I see some guys have to do it with a notepad.
Yeah.
I've never had to do that. I've just got a good memory for the writing side of it and what's happened. And I think it's probably why I'm all right at fishing, because I can remember stuff.
Oh, awesome, man. But I suppose taking pictures and all that can jog your memory, can't it?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
But I think ultimately I'm really passionate about it, whether it's video, photography, writing. I genuinely love it. So I think that carries you a long way. If you find something you're passionate about, it can take you anywhere, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. So how would you go about, sourcing the anglers you'd want to go out with? You're thinking, oh, well, he's doing well, go out with him, see what he's doing, he's up to. And
it was a bit of a funny one, really, because obviously you had advertisers that you had to appease. So you'd have certain anglers from each company that you'd have, like an A-list and not a B-list, but you had like...
Under what list is I was?
But they're like, there's anglers out there, the crux of the matter is some get paid, some don't.
Yeah.
So the ones that get paid have to do more.
Yeah.
Like that, this is the way the world works. But then you'd obviously, you'd pick your big guns, your Will Raisins, yourself, Steve Ringers. Then you'd have guys who maybe really good at an open level.
Yeah.
And try and get, because they're the ones who generally have really interesting stuff to say, don't they? Because they're not as exposed.
Got a certain method, haven't they?
So you get really good stuff with them. And it's surprising, you've got 160 pages in the summer to fill, but it's not a lot of space when you start actually doing it.
Right.
So you could go on forever.
How did you feel about, obviously, I know when I used to do them, obviously I used to write all my own stuff. How did you feel about writing stuff for someone else? Because for me, if I've done a feature, I want to write about that. I don't want anyone else to write it.
I preferred it when
the
guys...
Oh, when they did it?
Right. And even if it meant... I'll take me out to Jamie. Jamie he was terrible at writing. But what he was trying to say...
Still is.
What he was trying to say was amazing. He knew what he was trying to say. But it would just take a...
It's on the cam!
Yeah, but he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it's probably why he's so good at what he's fishing and that. He genuinely wants to do it.
Yeah.
Bit grim, innit?
On the rain.
And... but he would put it across way better than I would, and I could see what he was trying to say, and it'd just be a bit of titivating up.
A bit better English.
Yeah, just a bit better of English.
Right. Yeah.
Give it to David Haynes, and he'd sort it out. He was a sub-editor. Without him, the magazine would never happen.
Right.
Certainly when I was editor, because I used to just throw it in at him, and he'd make it sort it out.
Right. Okay.
I preferred it when it came from the angler, and then maybe I'd have to... Hadrian Whittle, for example, was an amazing writer, but he used to write 8,000 words for a 2,000 word piece.
Oh, right, okay, so you'd have to condense
So I'd have to chop it, and it was a nightmare, but he was such a good writer that you didn't mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right everyone, so with the Capital Catch competition launched just around the corner, we thought there was one more opportunity to give you all one more free competition with the biggest prize we have given away yet. And with this one, we're going with a lovely, shiny, brand new XR36 Pro competition seat box from Matrix. Exactly the same as this one that I use for all my fishing. So really, really simple if you want to get involved in this. All you have to do is follow the Capital Catch Competitions Facebook page, tag one of your friends into that and share the post as well. And the way the competition is going to work is it's chosen, the winner's chosen by a random comments generator. So the more times that you tag your friends in this post, the more times you'll be entered with a chance of winning this wonderful, wonderful seat box that has served me very, very well over the last few years. So best luck for everyone, and thank you very much for your support up to this point.
What about looking back then?
What's going on here?
Now, we're not pausing, mate. We're going. It's one take Tony's. We are, Joe.
Cameras might die, but
looking back then from sort of like your most memorable features you've been out with. Is there any that particularly stick out, and we need to do worst as well? And worst people you've been out with.
Or disasters.
Name and shame, Joe. Name and shame.
Andrew May, he was a right pain.
So many good ones. I mean, very fortunate that I've been out with so many great people.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it on the way here, like, who would I say? Like, I thought you'd probably ask, like, who's the best angler or whatever. But best features. There was one I went out with Steve Ringer. We went to Boddington, and this is before Boddington was considered a really good match venue. It was just coming up then. And there was a really short deadline. It was just before Christmas. And I'm like, we need to get a feature, Steve. Where can we go? And he's like, the weather's atrocious. Everywhere was frozen. He says, but we might go to Boddington and catch one. And we went, and it was like this deep in snow, frozen. There was like a little hole, channel in there. And we both sat there. And the truth of the matter is we put 4 rods out. Like, I put 2 out, he put 2 out.
Right, okay.
Just because we needed a fish to get a result. In the end, we didn't need all them rods. And I remember rod rings were freezing up. I cracked off because the rod rings froze up and all that.
Oh, so you've not broke the channel? There's like...
No, there's one channel in there,
okay.
a naturally formed one.
Yeah.
And we sat there till like 2 o'clock, not a sign, and we're like, what on earth are we doing? Freezing. My phone died. That's how cold it was. It froze up. And then I've got a bite, and we've got it all the way in, and then it's hit the ice in the rod rings, because it wasn't like the rods now, it was like little rings on the rod.
Yeah.
And the shot leaders cracked off on the ice, and we've lost the fish, and we're like, no. And in the end, he caught 4 real nice big mirrors, and it's just one of them, like, everything was against us, but we managed to get a really good feature. But bloody hell, I've had some good ones.
You've done so many, haven't you?
Where do you stand on that, though? Obviously, getting a magazine feature versus proving you can catch. Like, we know all the time it goes on where people, like, you might catch fish for someone or borrow them off just to get the pictures for the feature when it's hard. Does that bother you, or do you prefer to do it naturally?
I honestly say 99% of the time I've never had to borrow a fish or anything like that. But on that situation, it was one of them. Like, honestly, if you're just in the conditions, like, we've still got a job to do, haven't we, at the end of the day? It's like an electrician going and not being able to do his job, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not the best, but at the same time, you're still showing the tactics. And ultimately, the fish is just an ornament in the feature, isn't it? You're still talking about the...
That's the thing. It's the tactics that you want to get across, isn't it? You know, obviously, well, you can't dictate what the fish are going to do, can you?
No. And then people will say, oh, he hasn't really caught all them, but does it really matter? Like, Steve Ringer's telling you the best information he's got. And at the time, it was legit info that he'd probably not told before.
Well, he's got nothing... I think that's the thing, isn't it? He's got nothing to prove by, like, the match results and stuff before are what... are the reason you're doing the feature. I think that's what people miss a lot, where, go, and it can, you've said it a million times before, where it can go so against you when you're the only one on a lake or something 100%. Like that.
Oh God,
especially Snake Lakes, you catch one and they're suddenly that way, and you're sat looking like a bit of a...
that end of November to March time is a tough time for media. Because you can go to the best venue in the world, you come here and it's an amazing venue this is, and really struggle.
Yeah.
And people like probably don't see that, but we don't nick too many fish.
Just need to do what you do and just go and catch silvers we shad, don't we, in the winter?
It depends what side you're on as well, because if you're in like October to go in the December issue, you look like a hero.
Yeah.
If you're in like February and it's going out in April, you look rubbish, don't you?
Yeah, there's that lead time, and it's better now, but when we were first starting it, the lead time was massive. So you was shooting features end of September, October that go in your December, January issues. Yeah. So like everyone's like, there's leaves on trees. Well, it's summer.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, that's the printing times, and now it's much better now. It's like they put it and it's out 2 weeks later. It's much better, but there's still a massive lead time. And I think that's probably why video is so good in it, because it's instant.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I think that's the next step, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Worst ones in the world, then, Joe. Come on, there must have been some
features.
shockers or Have you blanked? You must have blanked. Well, we nearly blanked, didn't we, when we went out years and years ago?
Yeah.
What about worse ones or anything that's like gone drastically wrong on the day in the lead up to it? You just knew like this isn't going to happen today. None stick out.
Not really. I've had some bad ones, but you can normally get something from the day. I think that's one thing. I've had a few like failures. You always do, don't you? A few failures.
Yeah.
But no, there's an odd time when you do stuff, and I'm not going to say any names, but there's an odd time when you do stuff that's like advertiser driven.
Names.
That I never used to like that. You know, when it's a product that you can tell the person you're with's heart's not in it.
Ah, right, okay,
yeah. A bit like you with Magic Bread.
But
you get what I mean. Like,
yeah, definitely.
People are just trying to do the job for their sponsors or whatever, and you can see the heart in it. Your heart's not in it, and it's all a bit. Meh.
I remember going into the office at Magic Bread and Ultima Line and like how you cut it and all that, and like I don't think I'd have fish with it.
I bought some off the back of that.
Joe, it does work though, doesn't it? It does bloody work and it stays on, but
and that was the only thing I didn't like. That was the worst part of the job for me, the advertising side of it.
Yeah.
And everyone would be like, "Oh, there's too many adverts in," but the truth is, without the adverts, the magazine can't live.
It
just can't.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a frustrating part. That was the getting stuff in. But worst features, there was a few that turned up and it was just shit.
Yeah,
that's where you end up doing a top 5 tips feature or something
tips,
like that. That's if you see them, that's generally it's
rubbish. Been a fail.
Do you know what the other one as well is when you don't see a catch shot at the end, isn't it?
Well,
where you just had like a few fish and then like you're onto the next feature. Well, where's his catch shot?
No, it's holding just one of many fish.
Just one of many fish.
No, it wasn't. It was the only one.
You went and got that off someone else.
I don't even do a catch shot anymore.
No.
Like, I don't do it. I just don't.
Yeah, we don't do catch shots really.
Just because of aggro fish care and...
Yeah, there's a lot of Karens, isn't there?
Doesn't matter how well protected the fish are. You bring an unhooking mat, you know what I mean? Keep the fish out of water for no more than 30 seconds and then put them back, you know, not even having loads in the net. You know what I mean? But yeah, you still get it. So it's just
I don't. If I can avoid all the aggro, I do. So I don't try and do it anymore.
Yeah.
Don't think you need it, to be honest.
No, you don't.
Why are you proving what you're catching? It doesn't really matter.
I think the days of people being impressed by like £100 of carp in 2 or 3 nets, it's gone past that.
I think people love to see it, but they're afraid to say they love to see it.
Yeah.
I think that's the honest truth. We all love catching loads of fish. It's just people are like, ooh. Need to care for them.
What's the most like impressive performances then you've seen, or like anglers that you just go out with and you're like, wow.
But I'm gonna.
Will.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this on the way here because he's so good.
Oh, stop it, Joe. I'm not paid him,
right,
folks.
You're like
20 quid.
Whenever Matt used to go out with you, he used to come back. He's like, Andy's so good. And I think because of your nature, people probably think, oh, he's like the laughy, jokey one. But genuinely, you're amazing at fishing.
Oh, go on, Joe.
It's true.
That. Did you hear that, Richard?
I always think it's
that?
like you, and I think if you like focus more, you'd be amazing.
You're like that kid at school who's like, he could be really good, but he doesn't focus.
I always think like it's so easy for me to say Will.
Yeah.
Will was always amazing to go out with. Alan is the ultimate professional. Like Alan would go and practice for a feature.
Would he really?
Yeah, genuinely. Like he'd go sort it all out. He'd practice and he'd prepare like he was fishing a world champs for a feature. He was the ultimate professional, Alan was. So hats off to him for that.
Yeah.
Steve is my angling hero, so I always love going out with Steve. Always. Lee, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
But actual performance-wise, there was a lad called Luke Hawksworth from Woodlands, who at the time was taking Woodlands first apart, and I did a live match with him, a stopwatch, and it was probably the best I've watched.
Really?
He was amazing. He was so in tune with it. He was slapping, and he was method feeder fishing over 3 lines in open water. This is years ago. And he was amazing. He was so in tune with what he was doing. He knew exactly when to move. And it's a bit like when you see Bagger and he's like fishing partridge and they know exactly where to be at the right time. And Luke was just so tuned in. Amazing angler. And I see he's like doing really well again, so that's great to see. Cause
is he still fishing, is he? Yeah,
he just smashes it up all the time.
Brilliant.
But he's one of them anglers who a lot probably mainstream probably won't have heard of.
Yeah.
But he was brilliant. And then Adam Richards, obviously.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Who definitely. I still think is the best angler out there.
Yeah.
And Andy Power. Every time I've been out with Andy Power, he just amazes me how good he is. And he's frustratingly good.
He just does his head in, doesn't he?
He's frustratingly good. And then there's so many in there because you could say like Des is amazing. Jamie,
Just so many. And all the youngsters coming through now as well. Obviously, the likes of young Christian and
I go out with Sam now, Sam Collett.
Sam Collett, yeah.
Another
one.
Who's just frightening.
Yeah,
how good he is. And it's like,
I think that
how are we going to beat these kids?
I know, mate. They're like too tuned into it. I think that nicely leads on to, though, Joe, to like obviously where you are today. Obviously with new fishing.
Yeah.
Getting more time to do fishing yourself now, aren't you, mate? Which you're loving.
Yeah, loving it. And I think me and you've got a bit of a similar thing really going off. Like, I prioritise being a good dad more than I do being a good angler.
100%.
And
100%.
so my weekends I totally absorbed with looking after my kids and making sure that they're
barbecues and beers.
Yeah, I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's my responsibility, isn't it? My dad did that for me.
Yeah.
He gave up all his hobbies and stuff to bring me up. So
well, we're fortunate that we don't have to give our hobby. We get to fish Monday to Friday. Kind of thing. But then obviously our weekend.
And so when new fish came with an offer for me, 4 days a week, it was like, where do I sign you? So I get to fish every week now. It's the perfect balance for me.
Loving it.
I don't get to fish on the big qualifiers and all that sort of stuff, but I get to go where I want to go and catch loads of fish. I love it.
I think that's the thing, getting your confidence up, you nail on the head there, going fishes the matches that you want to fish. I fish the matches are completely wrong. I only fish qualifiers.
Yeah, and you're never going to... It's really difficult, that, isn't it? Because you can get the ump with it really easy.
Oh, yes, you can, Joe.
Because you're never catching any fish.
All right, I catch some fish, mate. Just not enough.
I did it one summer and I hated every minute of it. I don't. Fair play to you lads who do it all the time, but I hated every second of it.
Yeah,
hated it. And I think I probably had a bad summer when I went to Lakeview and caught 2 F1s. I went to Heronbrook and caught 2 F1s. I went to Lindholm, caught 1 F1. I mean, it's probably telling me that I'm a bit rubbish, but
no,
that's the nature of them fish shows, isn't it?
Qualifiers, mate. And obviously they all do it, the likes of Jamie, Power, Bagger, they all do it.
Go for a lot of pain to get there.
But yeah, that's what I mean for, the 8, 9, 10 ones that they don't weigh in, they'll get that one chance, take it, and that's it.
But for me, who gets at best 1 day a week, I'm not prepared to sacrifice my time to do that.
Yeah, 9 matches for them might be a couple of 3 weeks, where for someone who goes once a week or once every 2 weeks, that's half a year. Or
I always think with say Bennett, I know he probably doesn't do as much of it now, but when he was open match fishing all the time, he'd get something wrong on a Tuesday and he'd put it right the very next day. When I was going once a fortnight, which is that my fishing's been a lot like that for the last 6 or 7 years, it took me 2 weeks to get back out and put it right. And it's probably changed by the time I've got there.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So they can write off a Wednesday and then go on a Thursday. It's brilliant.
Being in tune with everything as well, isn't it? Just nuts.
Yeah, so that's me. I go once a week. Do my chub fishing in the winter.
Yeah, that's it. We talk about the chub fishing, mate. What's biggest? Come on then, off topic a bit now, but biggest chub you've had, Joe? Cheeky. Sounds a bit wrong, but you know what I mean.
£7.4.
How much?
£7.4.
£7.4, folks.
£7.4, £7.2.
Is it your favourite fish in the world? Isn't
it? Yeah.
Like me and Joe talk regularly when we used to go out on features, chub fishing and
doesn't even come close.
Show me a cheese mix and that sounds wrong as well.
It's chub cheese.
Show me a cheesy mix.
In the van. It's in the van.
Is it actually?
Yeah, I leave it in the van to get it ready for next winter.
It's just like something. Yeah,
I just love it. I genuinely love it.
I don't think you can beat him, mate.
Yeah, and it's a real nice.
Do you love that style of fishing more than obviously your matches and all that?
No.
You still like your competition, obviously. Yeah.
But I tell you what, it's a really nice break. So when the winter comes along and it's crap in it, let's be honest.
Tell them about what you're doing this weekend. Where are you going?
Yeah, going south coast, lure fishing for wrasse and bass and
completely something different.
Yeah, but I just love it. I love having a break because obviously I'm around it all the time. And I've found that for me it works really well. I have a reset between December and March. Go on the river. I go across the fields. No one even knows where I am, and I just go fishing. And I absolutely love it. And then come March, I'm raring to go again.
Yeah.
But I'm fishing 2-3 times a week chubbing. I just love it. I absolutely love it. And I catch some monsters like that.
Mate, they're just ridiculous, some of the size of them. Well, we're different in the fact that obviously as soon as the carp season ends, we turn our attention to silvers and there's so many silvers.
I probably will now, I've got more time.
Yeah,
probably will.
It's just ridiculous. Obviously the competition's now that Gaz's won on the flyer is up to 15 grand, I think.
No, it's brilliant.
I think having that break, doing the same thing, you just get into the groove where it's either dead good that you can do it without thinking, or you're not thinking and it goes against you because you're just doing the same thing for the sake of it, going through the same motions. You're not thinking, you're not learning, you're not doing anything. I
also think life's short and fishing's such a brilliant thing that we all do.
Yeah.
Life's short, innit? And I honestly could go carp fishing, me. free rod in it. I'd love to do it. I'd love to, but I know I'd lose myself in it and I wouldn't ever go match fishing again.
Really?
I'd love to go barbel fishing. This is what I'm doing this weekend, lure fishing in the sea. I'd love to do all that. There's not enough time, is there?
We tried that, can't we? Like, we're not patient enough. 5 minutes in, we're like, no, come on.
I think I'd be quite good at it.
Come a minute.
But I know I'd lose myself in that.
Yeah.
And it's the same with chub fishing. And I think we're all a bit guilty of pigeonholing ourselves. At the end of the day, we're anglers, aren't we? And fishing's a really good pastime.
That's it. Just this. It's being out in it and everything.
Fishing in it and
seeing ospreys, actual ospreys.
Yeah, we've seen them today. Yeah,
amazing.
We've gone on tangents there, haven't we?
I told you we would do, but no, that obviously main emphasis on like your career in it and like obviously angling and what have you. But no, it's brilliant, mate.
Obviously, like the video side of things now is massive, isn't it? And you guys know better than anyone. Like,
it's huge.
I started learning how to do that in 2014, and funny enough, DHP wouldn't train me. They wouldn't pay for any training or anything because they didn't see it as a viable part of the business.
Really?
And then, so I taught myself how to do it. And then they started doing like the e-mags with Des and stuff, and they were like, oh, hang on a minute. And I was quite lucky that I saw that was coming.
Yeah.
I think that's probably quite a good one for people. Look at, like, how do you get a job in fishing or how do you get a career out of it? The fact that when it was writing, you've gone out and done it off your own back, and people have spotted it. On the filming, you've gone out, taught
myself how to do it,
and then gone on. I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you've gone and taught yourself and proved you can do it and got the basics there, that's you route into it rather than
waiting for someone to train you.
Yeah, I want a job. Train me how to do it.
Yeah, it's I took a bit of a punt really. I couldn't afford it at the time. I took a loan out, bought myself a Mac and some camera kit.
Yeah.
And did it, and it's been the best thing I ever did.
Brilliant,
it's
mate.
like the next step on your career, isn't it? And what Rich said there is dead right, because there's loads of jobs in the trade. There is actually there's always jobs coming up. Media men, Preston always looking,
especially for media
people.
wise, yeah.
So there's no excuse anymore. Like, it was hard to get a job, but there's always jobs now coming up. Every 6 months there's something else coming up. So young'uns, get on it.
Yeah,
do it on your phone. There's no excuse.
Year 11s, what are you, 15, 16? Get yourself an essay written on fishing. What did you write about anyone in particular, or just about?
No, I
fishing?
wrote about skimmer fishing at my local club.
Did you?
On pellets.
But the teacher's like, what is he going on about? Just give him an A star.
No idea what he's on about. But he clearly likes it. But yeah, no, the phones are that good now. Do some filming yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing, innit?
Learn how to do it.
Because
it's not just fishing, is it? Let's be honest. All these companies that are in the wider world,
it's the little wacky things as well, innit?
Social media.
Yeah, the little things you put on. But
telling a story at the end of it. It doesn't really matter what you're using camera-wise or anything like that. If you've got a good story and a interesting person presenting it, that's
what I would say. The younger you can start off, kind of thing, and being comfortable in front of the camera is the one, because we see it quite often, literally just on a phone, where you turn your camera around, they're like, right, go, and they're like, but you might be like this beforehand, so obviously just get used to that side of it first, because it is difficult, isn't it, talking in front of the camera? You know what I mean? When you get like quite shy people like myself, it's like quite hard to like get going on the camera.
Yeah, I had my first ever video was for Ultimate Direct. Remember them? Ultimate
Barnsley, yeah, I do.
And they brought out some Barnsley Blacks floats, and me and Tom had to do a presentation on it in this. DHP used to have this studio, but
Tommy just like
it was like a no, Tom Scully it was.
Oh right, Tom Scully meant Tommy Pickering.
And we got put in this like garage,
right,
like pretending to be a studio. And I remember watching the footage back, and you can see my hands like this.
Oh, really?
Shaking, yeah. I couldn't get my words out.
And it's just you and Tom in there.
Me and Tom and Dave Weston, and there was another lad, Andrew, I forget his name, but there's an Andrew, and like pointing camera. I was that nervous.
It's mad, isn't it?
And then now I can just turn it on and waffle.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're dead right. The quicker you can do it. But there's loads of opportunity for anyone who wants to get into fishing.
There is.
But you've got to have some like bullets to fire before you go in.
Yeah. Our sport's massive, and it's only going to get bigger. You know what I mean?
Look at me when I left Preston. They've found it hard to find anyone who can just slot in. It's hard. And luckily they got someone, but it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really hard. I can't imagine me behind cameras.
No.
I reckon we should get him fishing and me filming. It's only a red and a green button, isn't it, Joe? That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Point and shoot.
Yeah,
mate.
Come on, Richard.
Spray and pray.
You know it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's it.
Cheers, Joe. Enjoyed that,
really.
mate. Let's have a little chat, innit?
A few tangents.
Bit of a reminisce.
A few tangents.
Yeah. We'll carry on with it when we're actually fishing. So I think with the weather brightening up and need to get some bait in, I think we'll go catch some fishes now.
Sounds good to me.